take us through the local government scorecard performance. I think that's the one everyone was waiting for.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Protocol observed. Most of my colleagues have given us a background to the scorecard and where we have come from and where we are now. I believe this is a moment that most of us are waiting for with regard to how our district councils, chairpersons, speakers, and councillors performed. We did an assessment in 35 districts, and this assessment covered 35 councils, 33 district chairpersons, 35 speakers of council, and 1,005 individual councillors. We covered 33 chairpersons because the chairperson of the then chairperson of Tororo and the then chairperson of Nebi passed on. So, and that was in the period, that is in the period that we are covering. Our assessment looks at a number of key parameters, and that is political leadership and accountability to citizens, legislative function, maintaining contact with the electorate, participation in local government council meetings, and monitoring service delivery. Those are the major issues that the scorecard focuses on. In terms of the characteristics of the people or the leaders that we assessed, we, like I said, 33 chairpersons, and of the 33, only one is female. The speakers, we did covered 35, and only 3 of the speakers are female. The district councillors, 446 of them were male, while 559 were female. We also covered the special interest groups, and these are the representatives of the elder persons, persons with disabilities, workers, and youth. And these range between 65 to 63. Political parties, we had a representation of the NRM that had the majority in these councils with 77% of all the leaders being NRM. They are followed by the independents at 9%, FDC at 8%, DP and UPC each at 4%. In terms of education, level of education, 25% of the people that we assessed have master's degrees, have bachelor's degrees, 25% have diplomas, 10% certificates, A-level at 10% as well, O-level at 24%. We have junior at 1%, primary at 3%. Majority of the people that we assessed were serving their first term in office, and that was 68% of all the leaders that we covered. Like I said, the scorecard looks at the different categories, that is councils, chairpersons, speakers, and individual councillors. And with regard to the performance of the district councils, the assessment covered their performance on the legislative function of council, how council was accountable to the citizens, that is looking at downward accountability, how council was able to plan and budget for the district, and how council and its structures were able to monitor service delivery in their areas of jurisdiction. Our results show that there is an improvement in the overall performance of council. That is between financial year 2016-17 and 18-19. And this improvement is from 51 points to 62 points. We also observe an improvement across the different parameters. On legislation from 15 to 16 points. On accountability, there's a stagnation there. Planning and budgeting from 11 to 14. Monitoring service delivery from 10 to 17 points. In terms of range of scores, we see councils that have scored between 0 to 25 points, declining from 3 to 0. We also see councils that have performed in a range of 26 to 50, declining from 49% to 23%. The councils that have scored between 51 to 75 have increased from 49% to 60%. And those that are scoring, or those that have scored 79 to 100 points have declined from 14 to 3. On the specifics, Kabarore District Council in particular was the best rated council in the year under review with 87 points. In the second and third position, we have Gulu and Impiji districts scoring 68 and 80 points respectively. Nebi District Council emerged the fourth with 79 points, and it shows a big jump from 37 points in the financial year 2016-17. The data shows that Arua District Council registered a very significant improvement from 29 points in 2016-17 to 63 points in 18-19. There are a number of factors that explain this performance, and these relate to issues of record keeping, the quality of legislation in councils, monitoring service delivery, following up issues or concerns identified during service delivery activities, and being able to cause change. So those that have performed well demonstrate good performance along those lines. It is also notable, however, that 6 district councils declined in their general performance, and these are mainly Wakiso, Rukunjiri, Hoima, Masindi, Nakapiripirit, and Bududa. And this decline is explained by inadequate evidence on monitoring of standing committees, irregular meetings for the committees, poor accountability to citizens, among others. In a very short while, we'll be distributing the bigger report, and most of the details are shown in the Annex 2 of our report. With regard to the performance of district chairpersons, the assessment focused on 5 parameters, and these include political leadership, legislative function, contact with the electorate, initiation of projects in the electoral areas, and monitoring service delivery. In general terms, we see also an improvement in the performance, in the average performance of chairpersons in comparison to the 2016-17 assessment, and that is from 62 to 72 points. I thought we'd clap for that. Under political leadership, there is also an improvement, a slight improvement by 1 point, and we see that also in legislation, initiating development projects, as well as monitoring service delivery. There is a stagnation on contact with the electorate. In terms of range of scores, the district chairpersons that are scoring less than 25% have not changed. We still have 3%. scoring less than 25%. Those scoring 26 to 50 points have declined from 21 to 3, and those scoring between 51 to 75 have also stagnated at 46%. And we also see an increase in those that are scoring between 76 to 100 points, from 30 to 49%. Specifically, the best performing district chairperson was Honorable Richard Rauhinga of Kabarore District Local Government with 96 out of 100 points. And this is an improvement from 90 points in the previous assessment. The second best chairperson is Honorable Martin Ojara Mapenduzi of Gulu District Local Government, and he scored 94 out of 100 points. And he's showing an improvement of 3 points compared to financial year 16-17. The third best chairperson is Honorable Alex Oremo Alot. This is the chairperson of Lira District Local Government. He has, in the last 3 successive assessments, he has moved from 21 points, and he's now at 86 points. The results also show that there are 2 chairpersons that have exhibited a great improvement. And for the 2 episodes of assessment, we see the chairperson of Arua, Honorable Sam Wadri Nyakua, with a significant improvement from 36 points to 84 points in the current assessment. And we show most of the details in our Annex 3 of the report. This performance also has what explains it, and this is largely due to irregular attendance of council meetings. Some of the chairpersons are not attending council regularly. Some of the DEC or district executive committees are not functioning as expected. Some of the district chairpersons are not adequately supervising the statutory bodies. There is a lot of complacency in terms of monitoring service delivery, reporting and sharing findings with the technical teams. Sometimes the political leaders go out there and monitor, but they don't share their findings with the political teams for the issues identified to be addressed. On the speakers of council, the assessment covered 4 major parameters, and that is the issue of legislation, contact with the electorate, participation in council meetings at the lower local government level, and also monitoring service delivery. We also see an improvement in the performance of the speakers, overall performance of the speakers, from 56 to 62 points. And this performance is also observed under legislation, contact with the electorate, and monitoring service delivery. In terms of the range of the scores, we see a decline among those that have scored between those that have scored less than 25, declining from 6% to 3%. Those that have scored between 26 to 50 have declined from 26 to 20%. Those that have scored 51 to 75 have increased from 54 to 69%. And we also see a decline among the speakers that have scored between 75 to 100 from 14 to 9 points. From 14 to 9%, I beg your pardon. The specifics about the performance of the speakers, like I said, we have only 3 female speakers, and those in the councils of Kabarore, Kabale, and Moroto. And we also have 3 male youth representatives that were selected or elected by their colleagues to be speakers of council, and those are in the councils of Kaliro, Shema, and Imbarara. There are 2 representatives of persons with disabilities that are also speakers, and these are in the councils of Soroti and Tororo. Overall, Honorable Stella Chorampe was the best rated speaker for the financial year 2018-19 with 92 points, and she's moving up from the 3rd position to occupy the 1st position. Among the speakers, we realized that the factors that explained their performance is because they were able to hold all the mandatory council meetings on schedule. They had commendable performance on steering the business of council. They were enforcing the standard rules of procedure, and they ensured that they attended regularly. They attended the council meetings at the local government level, and they were monitoring delivery of service in the constituencies that they represent in council as councillors, and following up the issues to ensure that they cause change. Details of this performance are shown in the Annex 4 of our report. With regard to the individual district councillors, there are 4 major parameters that the scorecard focused on. One is legislative function, contact with the electorate is the second, and third, we have participation in meetings at the local government councils, and also monitoring service delivery. The findings show that the number of councillors that scored between 0 to 25 points has increased from 19 to 23%. Those that scored between 26 to 50 have also increased from 42 to 46%. Those scoring 51 to 75 points have declined from 30 to 28, and those scoring 78 to 100 points have also increased from 6 to 8. In terms of mean score per region, we have the central region with the highest mean score, followed by the western region, followed by the northern region, followed by the eastern region, and Karamoja follows the others in that order. With regard to mean score by gender, we have males scoring a higher average percent compared to their female counterparts. Average scores by the level of education, we've also been able to notice that the higher the level of education, the higher the average score. And those with master's degrees scored highest at an average of 53%. And that speaks to what the minister said earlier on with regard to a requirement for a minimum qualification for councillors at that level. Overall, there are a number of factors that affect or determine this performance, and our assessment shows that limited financing carries the biggest share of these factors. Some councils were unable to have all the mandatory 6 council meetings. The lower government councils were unable to have all the meetings, largely because of issues of financing. There are inconsistencies in induction of elected councillors on the part of government, and that is also an issue of financing. Limited contact with the electorate, issues of facilitation of councillors for them to be able to move around their constituencies and service their constituencies adequately. There are dormant structures at that level, and some of them include women councils, youth councils, councils of PWDs, associations of the elderly, among others. all those are dormant because they lack the requisite resources to be able to do what they are mandated to do. We also realized that there are inadequate capacities in these local governments, where the overall staffing level stands at 56% for higher local governments, 57% for municipal councils, and 49% for key strategic positions. And we also realized that most of the positions that are filled are largely for administrative support staff at 80%. And these leave a big gap in terms of the local governments being able to execute their devolved roles and functions. Specifically for council, we also realized that they do not have substantive clerks to councils, and that became a very big problem, especially where the clerks to councils are at a level of senior assistant secretaries and are always deployed as and when need arises, and therefore they do not focus on conducting business of council. In most cases, in the councils that we went to, documentation is a problem because the clerks to councils are always on the move from one assignment to the next. There are conflicts in a number of districts where we operate, and one of them is Tororo, where my friend comes from. We have Agago. We have a conflict in Agago between the technical and the political wing. There is a conflict in Moya between the district chairperson and the speaker. In Masindi, yes, a conflict between the political wing and the technical arm, where council makes resolutions to chase away the speaker, and also the chairpersons go ahead and lock up the offices to chase away the chief administrative officer, and the political wing goes up and locks the offices of the CAO. Some of those conflicts continuously cripple the functioning of the local governments. Poor accountability relations, functionality of the committees. The functionality of the committees at that level is not yet at its best, where, for instance, committees are not able to look at the budget, their sector budgets and work plans, scrutinize them, and be able to provide meaningful recommendations to council for action. We still have a problem with that. And there's also a lack of a law that compels councillors to attend meetings at the lower local government level, where we feel that for accountability, to have a complete loop of accountability, it should not be at the discretion of the councillor to attend a meeting at the lower local government level, but it should be mandatory for them to go there, pick issues, and be able to bring these issues to the councils at a higher level. In conclusion, we feel that in order to consolidate these, the gains that have been registered under decentralization and in the local government sector, there is need for deliberate efforts to provide elected leaders with requisite resources, knowledge, skills, and competences so that they can effectively execute their mandates. The structures of council, like standing committees, district executive committees, local government public accounts committees, need to be regularly trained and mentored to effectively play their accountability and oversight function. It is important to review the relevant legal frameworks to provide governments with more flexibility, provide local governments with more flexibility in mobilizing revenue from alternative revenue sources, including own investments and borrowing. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Jonas. Jonas, don't go very far.